Good evening. Welcome to the National News Broadcast. I'm Kasuni Balachandra.
A very good evening indeed. I'm Charita Minipurarachi, and now let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news. A broad native and humanitarian front led by Sri Lanka Freedom Party, the President says. Many steps to strengthen the democracy in Sri Lanka, Prime Minister says in Maldives. Suspended Dalpitiya Pradeshik Sabha polls to be held on October 11th. Intelligence agencies have directed 97 reports on Saharan Hashim and the organization, revealed in courts. A bomb blast in Kabul city amid peace talks between USA and Taliban. 16 deaths with 119 injured.
Moving on to those and other stories in detail. President Maithripala says that a broad native and humanitarian front led by Sri Lanka Freedom Party will be established for the forthcoming election. The president made these remarks at the 68th anniversary summit of Sri Lanka Freedom Party. The summit was held under the patronage of Chairman of Sri Lanka Freedom Party, President Maithripala Sirisena. The theme of the event was Thinduwa Hariyatata. The summit commenced after conducting all religious observances and was attended by representatives of other political parties, and political representatives from Cuba, China and Russia also were invited for the event. Secretary General of SLFP parliamentarian Dasari Jayasekara presented the Sunila Janavadaya plan included with the future process to build Sri Lanka to the president at the event. Addressing the summit, the president said that the primary duty of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party would be to navigate the Sri Lankan politics filled with corrupted elite politics and fake patriotism to the correct path. President Maithripala Sirisena said that 90% of the local government institutions to Pradeshik Sabha have been corrupted. He said that the government or the opposition has not taken any initiative to eradicate corruption from the local government institutions. He said that the alleged parties of the central bank bond scam should be removed from politics in this country. The president said that all relevant documents have been prepared to bring Arjun Mahendran back to the country. He also said that relevant documents have also been prepared to produce alleged parties before the courts. Therefore, he said that a historic and ethical responsibility has been vested with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party to re-establish a common people's political force in the country. The president said that he believes the country requires a leader with an honest political process for the betterment of the country and a leader who cares for the nation. However, he said that in accordance to the 19th Amendment, the next president will not be able to carry out such duties. He said that all should direct their attention on the appointment of the next prime minister instead of the president. The president said that the country requires a broad, native, progressive and humanitarian national front. He said that the Sri Lanka Freedom Party will establish the next government with their policies and vision. Therefore, the president said that a new government will be established in 2020 by creating a political transformation within the next couple of months.
And now for a brief note on the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party was established in the year 1951 under the leadership of former Prime Minister late S.W. Bandaranaike. The progressive force comprised of the Pancha Mahabalavege, the force of five powers base camp victorious in the general election in 1956. With that victory in 1956, the new government brought a great number of revolutionary changes. Transformations of the Vidyodaya and Vidyalankara Pirivenas into universities, the Paddy Cultivation Act, which led to ensure the rights of the paddy farm workers, introduction of the non-aligned foreign policy, establishment of the reawakening of the national arts, and many other progressive steps were taken during this new era. The late leader of the party, former Prime Minister S.W. Bandaranaike, was assassinated on the 25th of September 1959. He was shot by a man in robes. After that, the leadership was taken by a former Prime Minister, late Sirimao Bandaranaike. Under her leadership, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party led United Alliance won general elections in 1960 and 1972. The establishment of state banks, land reformations, the introduction of non-aligned foreign policy, the 1972 Republican Constitution and educational reforms and several profitable ventures of the country inherited through the Sri Lanka Freedom regime. after former Prime Minister late Sirimao Bandaranaike, Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumartunga took over the leadership and Mahinda Rajapaksa gained the chairmanship of the party subsequently. The present chairman of the party is President Maithripala Sirisena.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says the present government has taken many steps to strengthen the parliamentary democracy in Sri Lanka. The Prime Minister further said that the government will work together with all relevant parties to establish a productive mechanism to exterminate terrorism for regional cooperation. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe made these remarks this morning while addressing the Maldivian parliament.
So I will now request the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka to address the Maldives Parliament.
It is indeed a great honor to address the People's Majlis of Maldives Island at a time when the people of Maldives enjoy the privileges of a parliamentary democracy and when the parliament is headed by former President of Maldives, a democracy campaigner and a long-time friend of Sri Lanka. The relationship between the people of Sri Lanka and Maldives dates back many centuries. Sri Lanka is considered to be the second home of many Maldivians. Many Sri Lankans work in the Maldives, while all of us relish the famous Maldive fish product known as umbala kada. At the outset, I would like to congratulate President Soli and Speaker Nasheed, who are the front-runners of the democratic movement in the Maldives, for having strengthened people's powers and rights in Maldives. And I would like to make use of this opportunity to explain to you the major strides taken to strengthen democracy and ensure freedom of society in Sri Lanka during the last few years of our government. The major features of Westminster parliamentary government exist side by side with an executive presidency, which we are committed to abolish due to its profound powers that have often been exploited and abused by its incumbent with impunity. The 19th Amendment further strengthened Parliament by restricting the President's power to dissolve Parliament. The President cannot dissolve Parliament for 4.5 years unless Parliament requests a dissolution by a two-thirds majority. The 19th Amendment was deemed necessary, as I said, because of the flagrant violations of the Constitution under the previous regime. For instance, the then Chief Justice Shirani Bandaranaike was removed in 2013 without a proper resolution of impeachment. Today I note that for the first time, the Majlis is approving the appointment of 2 female judges to the Supreme Court. Congratulations. Similarly, there was a high level of politicization in the public service and the police. The 19th Amendment addressed these issues by establishing an independent Judicial Service Commission, an independent Police Commission, an independent Public Service Commission, an Election Commission, a Finance Commission to determine funding for the provincial councils, and a National Audit Commission. The members of these commissions are now appointed by the Constitutional Council, which also approves the appointments of the Chief Justice, the judges of the Superior Courts, the Inspector General of the Police, and the Attorney General. Honourable Speaker, very soon we will be tabling a bill to establish a parliamentary budget office.
The Prime Minister made remarks on terrorism as well.
Sri Lanka has been subject to over 25 years of terrorism. Nevertheless, the Easter Sunday bombing by sympathizers of the IS was a radically different terrorist attack. We have learnt a lot from this tragic experience, and today Sri Lanka stands ready to work with all stakeholders to establish an effective mechanism for regional cooperation to counter IS terrorism. I must also express my indebtedness at this juncture to your delegation who visited Sri Lanka after the bomb explosion. Honourable Speaker, you gave us much needed support at a critical juncture. Sri Lanka and Maldives are 2 neutral nations situated in the crossroads of the Indian Ocean, faced with rising regional tensions, terrorism, piracy and drug trafficking. Therefore, we must strengthen our bilateral dialogue in this sphere and seek ways to cooperate in containing and overcoming these threats. Today, climate change is an impending threat to all of us. We are cognizant of the particular vulnerability of the Maldives to rising sea levels and the very real danger of your islands coming underwater. Let me reassure you that we stand ready to support you fully in your fight against rising sea levels and global warming. I also propose to President Soli that we work together at international fora dealing with this subject.
Prime Minister, the Maldives has always seen the Sri Lankan state as the most stable democracy in South Asia. Sri Lanka has never transferred power other than through democratic means, through the ballot. And again, therefore, it's an immense honor for us to have you, Prime Minister, speaking to the members of the Maldives Parliament. Rising sea level would probably someday mean going back to Kandy, as Prince Vijaya had come from there.
Even the Himal may come underwater.
Yeah, well, so the Himal also must move to Kandy. Prime Minister, I have a little present for you and your wife, Mrs. Wickramasinghe, who is also present here. I have a copy of the Istudoma Fund. This is the oldest written document of the Maldives, and you would, Prime Minister, see that actually you would be able to understand the transliteration than we would.
Read this.
You can say.
Maldivian President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih says Sri Lanka Act Maldives shares a deep and enduring friendship between the nations. He further said that Sri Lanka's prosperity is the prosperity of his country. The Maldivian president made these remarks during a special luncheon hosted for the Sri Lankan Prime Minister and his delegation. The special luncheon for the Sri Lankan delegation was held at Kumara, Maldives yesterday. Representatives of both the nations were present for the special luncheon. President Solih and Prime Minister Wickramasinghe made remarks during this event.
At the end of the day, the nation as a whole, an individual look at development. The development in the social sector, the developments in the economic sector. How do we face the challenges? This is why we came here.
They are our friends, colleagues, and partners. When Sri Lanka hurts, we hurt. When Sri Lanka prospers, we prosper. We are kin. We have endured with Sri Lanka some of its darkest days and have shared your optimism when you open hopeful new chapters in your history. You have in turn done the same for us. This is because several of the most important journeys our countries have undertook, we have embarked on together.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ranil Wickramasinghe met with Vice President of the Maldives, Faisal Nazim, yesterday. The meeting was held at the Maldives President's office. During this meeting, the Maldives Vice President said that the mutual respect and the friendship have always marked the relationship between both the countries. Spouse of Sri Lankan Prime Minister Professor Maithripala called on First Lady Vasna Ahmed at the Presidential Palace yesterday. First Lady Vasna extended warm greetings to Professor Wickramasinghe upon her arrival. Following the discussions, First Lady Vasna and Professor Wickramasinghe observed the preparation of a local delicacy by a minister of the authentic Maldivian cuisine.
The Ministry of Finance says that People's Bank will not be privatized under any circumstances. This was noted in a press release issued by the Ministry of Finance. According to the People's Bank Act, the ultimate ownership of the bank rests with the Sri Lankan government and its responsibility lies on the Secretary to the General Treasury. The People's Bank Act indicates that the shares of the bank cannot be sold to any party including cooperative societies or the Secretary to the General Treasury. The media release has further pointed out that various statements made on this regard are politically motivated, baseless statements made by political leaders who attempt to mislead public for their own personal gains.
And now for a few court news in brief. President's Counsel Sanjeev Jayawardene informed the Supreme Court that the State Intelligence Service had directed 97 reports on the National Tawhid Jamaat organization and its leader Zaharan Hashim to the Defense Secretary and the IGP. This was revealed when 12 fundamental rights petitions against former Defense Secretary Hemsiri Fernando and IGP Pudhi Jayasundara, who is on compulsory leave, taken up for hearing before the 7-judge bench of the Supreme Court today. Violation of fundamental rights by failing to prevent the Easter Sunday attacks are the charges leveled against them. 10 suspects alleged for maintaining close relations with leader of the Tawhid Jamaat organization, Zaharan, were produced before the Kapitikolava District Magistrate Court today. The Terrorism Prevention Division officers informed the court that the investigations into the mobile phone and bank accounts of the suspects are yet to be completed. Accordingly, the suspects will remain till September 17th. Panadura High Court imposed the capital punishment of the 3 suspects who were found guilty of a murder today. The order was delivered by High Court Judge NWG Veeraman. The case was filed in connection with the murder of a resident in Ekotaguina, Moratuwa in 2009. 4 out of 7 suspects of the case were acquitted.
Head of Australia's Operation Sovereign Borders, Major General Craig Farini, called on Sri Lankans to join in efforts to warn of the dangers and long-term consequences of attempting illegal immigration by boat. The head of Australia's operation to combat illegal maritime migration made these remarks during his visits in Colombo and Negombo today. In June 2019, the Australian government launched a zero-chance campaign to dissuade potential illegal immigrants from joining people smuggling ventures to Australia by sea. Rear Admiral Ardigala of Sri Lanka Navy and Australian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, David Holly, were present on this occasion.
I am here in Sri Lanka today, and Negombo Harbour in particular, to once again talk about people smuggling to Australia in light of recent increase in the number of boats coming to Australia. So I'm here to deliver a few messages. Let me be clear. I have one simple message. Do not come to Australia illegally by boat. You have zero chance of success. This is clear as 13 Sri Lankans found out about 2 weeks ago who were returned having risked their lives at sea and wasted their money to end up back where they started. Australia's border protection policies remain strong and unchanged. We want Sri Lankans to know the truth about this, and we encourage the community to help get this message out. Under Operation Sovereign Borders, the operation I lead, nobody who comes to Australia illegally by boat will settle in Australia. Of course, all of this would not be possible without excellent cooperation with regional partners and in particular Sri Lanka. It is in both of our countries' interests to counter illegal people smuggling and to prevent it from occurring. Our best form of defence is to work with the partners, in particular the Sri Lankan government, to deter and disrupt people smuggling at source, stopping people from getting onto boats in the first place and risking their lives. Australia and Sri Lanka share a very close relationship on a range of social, economics and security matters. This includes people smuggling. When I was last here in June, I launched the Zero Chance information campaign. The campaign, Zero Chance, is delivered in 11 countries and 15 languages around the globe. Today, as an extension of that campaign, I am announcing the Zero Chance Short Film Festival in Sri Lanka. I encourage all talented and budding or aspiring Sri Lankan short film makers to participate by making short films that would help us tell the story to combat people smuggling, highlighting the risks and the dangers of undertaking such journeys.
You might be wondering why we are here at Negombo, but we're here because many of the issues that we are facing in terms of human people smuggling have this place as part of their source. I'm also delighted to have the Navy Director General of Operations, Rear Admiral Aqaba. I'm very pleased that he is here to join us today. I also have with us today Commander Jason Williams, who is the manager of the National Responsive Operations for the Australian Federal Police. We'd like to deliver some messages today to talk about the fact that there is zero chance of illegal human smuggling taking place to Australia. We would also like to ask the Sri Lankan community to join us in delivering this message.
Minister Ajit P. Perera says that fraud and corruption will be limited through the digitalisation of the government structure. He made these comments while taking part in a parliamentary debate. Orders under the Judicature Act were taken into the parliamentary debate today. Minister Ajit P. Perera said that fraud and corruption can be mitigated through the digitalisation of the government structure. He said that the hardware component for this purpose have been completed by the ministry with the aim to build such a system in the country. The minister said that the ministry expects to build a system for relevant institutions to access all information of the government structure, including banks with certain applied conditions. Parliamentarians shared their condolences over the demise of Professor Carlo Fonseca during the parliamentary sessions today.
A detention order was obtained on the two suspects arrested yesterday over the murder of the chief jailer of Valikade Prison Training School today. The order was issued by the Balapeti magistrate accordingly. The suspects will be detained and interrogated by the Ambalangoda police till September 5th. One of the suspects was arrested in Galagodavatta area in Ambalangoda. According to the information revealed by the suspect, the police was able to apprehend the other suspect in Thalgaskoda area in Ambalangoda. The police managed to discover one T-56 firearm, one magazine and 12 live ammunitions hidden at the residence of the suspect. 5 suspects have been taken into custody over the incident thus far. A suspect has been taken into custody today over the hacking and killing of 2 persons in Grand Pass area, which occurred on August 15th. The arrest was made by Organised Crimes Investigation Division. The suspect is a 24-year-old resident in Ferguson Road, Colombo 15.
Restoration works of the Chaitya at Digavapi Bihar in Ampara was commenced yesterday. The proceedings were commenced under the patronage of Minister Sajid Premadasa. 850 million rupees have allocated from the provisions of the Central Cultural Fund to complete the restoration work. The relevant restoration works said to be completed within 3 years. The restoration will be carried out under the guidance of the Chief Incumbent of Digavapi Bihar, Venerable Mahaoya Sobita Tera.
The Election Commission has decided to conduct the Alpetia Pradesha Sabha election on October 11th. The relevant extraordinary gazette notification was issued today. Galle District Secretary has informed the Election Commission to hold the elections on the said date. Accordingly, the relevant extraordinary gazette notification was issued to the Galle returning officer. A fundamental rights petition was filed with the Supreme Court by Democratic United National Front against the rejection of the nomination list submitted by the Front for the Alpetia Pradesha Sabha election during previous year's local government polls. After a lengthy hearing of 1.5 years, the Supreme Court issued an order to the Election Commission to recommence the Alpetia Pradesha Sabha election. 28 members are set to be elected to the Alpetia Pradesha Sabha. More stories on the other side of this break. Well, and moving on, the anniversary ceremony to mark the 153rd anniversary of Sri Lanka Police was held today under the patronage of acting IGP C.D. Wickramaratne. The ceremony was held at the Police Field Force Headquarters grounds. The Sri Lankan Police Service commenced operations on the 3rd of September 1866 under the direction of British national Sir George William Robinson Campbell with 585 police personnel. More than 100,000 police officers and staff are attached to the Sri Lanka Police Service at present. Sri Lanka Police Service is the supreme state institution which enforces the country's law. 3,100 police personnel have sacrificed their lives while ensuring law, peace and public protection in the country thus far. The ceremony was commenced with a minute of silence in the honor of personnel who had sacrificed their lives during service. An honorary salutation was presented to the acting IGP during the ceremony. Subsequently, the acting IGP observed the Police Guard of Honor. The Sri Lanka Police Service has carried out an enormous service in maintaining a peaceful and lawful society in the country for the past 153 years.
The Aqaba military exercise organised by the Sri Lanka Army for the 10th occasion was commenced today. The exercise was held at the Bin area Sri Lanka Army Operation Headquarters premises. Exercise Director and the Central Defence Commander, Major General Laksiri Vaduge, attended the program as the chief guest. 2,400 Sri Lankan Army personnel, 400 Sri Lanka Navy personnel and 200 Sri Lanka Air Force personnel are taking part in the exercise. In addition, many foreign army personnel and more than 200 observers have also participated in the event. The Aqaba military exercise program will be held from today till September 23rd. The program has been initiated under the guidance and complete supervision of the Sri Lanka Army Commander, Lieutenant General Shravendra Silva.
And now to give you a stock update, the all shares price index closed at 5,883.42 points, increased by 5.13 points, and the S&P SL 20 index closed at 2,889.94 points, also dropped by 1.60 points at the end of trading in the Colombo Stock Exchange today. The turnover was over 799 million rupees. Here's a summary of the market details of the Colombo Stock Exchange today. And before we wind up, let's have a quick look at the weather. The Met Department says that several spells of showers will occur in western, central, sub-Ragamo, southern and northwestern provinces. Showers or thunder showers may occur at few places in Uba province and in Ampara and Batikro districts after 2 p.m. Wind speed can increase up to 50 km per hour at times in northern province. There may be temporarily localized strong winds during thunder showers. General public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize damages caused by lightning activity. On the upper and southward relative motion of the sun, it is going to be directly over the latitudes of Sri Lanka during 27th of August to 7th of September 2019. The nearest towns of Sri Lanka over which the sun is overhead tomorrow are Nalurua, Bothele, Kahavatta, Koskama, Habassa, Dombagahavela at about 12:10 noon.
And with that, we conclude tonight's news. Do watch us tomorrow at the very same time.
Good night.